Hello, my name is Rotimi, and such a pleasure to be here once again on the Good Morning Education Show. Today, we will be having an interesting in our own practice, in our own manner. And I hope that as we have the show today, I'd like to first say good morning, Internet, so that we have the cooperation of the Internet, to be able to ensure that we have the right connectivity to have the show. On the Good Morning Education Show, we spend time to talk about issues within and around the world of education. Take our time to talk about the dynamics of all that we're talking about. And we also try to ensure that we try to ensure that it's an opportunity for us to learn together, share together, and also grow together. On the show today, we will be tackling some subject matter and also consistently, you know, bring us to focus on the teachers reading. And we've been having an interesting theme for the past few days since the year began, and it's just to illustrate the kind of things that we need to do, the kind of work that is set for us for the year. So it's a no limit year, and it's a no limit education, and we believe that it will definitely bring us to that point where we'll be able to know what to do, how to do, when to do, what to do. That's what I believe. And we will be having an interesting time today. Before I take a step further, I'd like to thank you to all. I'd like to thank you to all our guests. And let's thank you to all our friends and loyal tribe members. Let's just thank them and appreciate them for consistency. Today we will be having the show, and we will go straight to the point, and we will also try to help you understand. So we have an interesting topic this morning, and we're going to be talking about no limit teacher. You see, it's easy for us to, you know, ask ourselves or challenge ourselves, you know, to doing more, having more stuff like that. But a lot of times when the rudiments are not clear on how you can achieve them, it makes that pursuit almost an impossible task. And I believe that what we just need to do is to rub minds together and ask ourselves, how do we how do we identify the one who has no limits? Of course, you know what it is when we talk about limitation. You know, when we talk about limitation, it means a lot of things to different people. To different people, and when we look at it from that concept and perspective, then you begin to realize that it's really an interesting thing. I would say that if you were to start with the topic of no limit teacher, you need to also begin to tell yourself, so all the people who are listening, what does it mean to be a no limit teacher? What does it mean to be one who is without limit? What does no limit means? The first thing you need to realize is that the no limit is actually two words. There is no and there is limits. And it also prescribes to many people or an expected response by many people. I feel that if you're going to really be a no limit individual, a no limit teacher, a no limit educator, then it means that we need to be able to identify what truly is our limitation. It's just like when we get into training mode or we get into retreat mode and people begin to ask about the concept of SWOT analysis, that we should try to, carry out a SWOT analysis on who we are, on what we are, on our business, on our process, on our profession. But listening, SWOT is actually an acronym in terms of the model we are trying to talk about, meaning that each letter, the SWOT that makes up SWOT, they actually signify something. Where S is your strength, where W is your weakness, where is the threat. Now, it further takes us into that SWOT analysis to say that you are actually going to have to divide the letters into two parts. And that way, even though it's a quadrant, you can see that the left side of it is speech. So there's the internal factor or domain, there's the external factor and domain. So when you have your strength and you have your weaknesses, ideas times they are within, they are talking about internal factors. But when I begin to think about it, I will start saying that, okay, what are the limitations? And then we'll start talking about it from the opportunities, variables that most times lean on the external factor. And so bring this back for everyone to be able to say no to their limitation, because that's what no limit means. It means that you are able to say no, you are able to seek no, you are able to stand on your no, you are able to do no. I say for every a no limit teacher, he needs to carry out what I would call a limitation audit. And that limitation audit is something that helps you to come face to face to what your limitations are. As a teacher, what are your personal limitations? The limitations that you have. So let me paint a picture. I'm going to look at a very old person, maybe a man or a woman at the age of 100 or at the age of 90. You will realize that there are certain limitations they will have. There are bodily limitations, physical limitations. They might not jump, an average 90-year-old might not jump like a child, might not run like a child, might not walk fast. They might be careful and steady in their approach of how they do things. So you can look at that in an example. Hello, Dr. Derisala.
Good morning. How are you doing today?
This your swag nowadays. I'm suspecting that the alert has entered and you're coding it to uh, remember us in thy kingdom. Uh,
No wahala.
so we're talking about the no limit teacher, no limit teacher. We've been using this mantra recently, and we just said that, what, let's even take one of the variables and focus on it today. And I was trying to do an introduction. And in my introduction, I was trying to appeal to people or we have no limits. We should be mindful that there are two words, no and limit. Saying no to the things that limit us, our limitations. And I was trying to make people understand that it might be important for them to take the approach of a SWOT analysis, for example, and consider that there are internal factors and external factors. So if you look at your limitations and you're to carry out a limitation audit, you want to be able to identify as a teacher what limits you personally, that the things that you know that you are willing to discover as your own limitation. So that's where I was using the illustration of an adult who probably is not just an adult, an aged individual, someone who is like 90, 100. The person probably won't work as fast as a secondary school boy. Why? There are some limitation, right? And the person won't rush food. In fact, at least I've witnessed being around old people. Their menu also begins to change. You won't see them eat like an average young person. They take time to eat. Sometimes they don't even try to take all those heavy things that will require chewing, chewing, chewing for some people. So I'd like to ask you, talking about no limit teacher, right? What should be the disposition? What should be the perspective? What does this address? I'd like to hand over the
Okay,
response.
so let's have, every human being has a limitation. Every human being has a limitation. When I say limitation, in terms of the things you are weak at. But as a teacher, I always say if there's anything you shouldn't be weak at, is oratory. Like that can be an option. So I like to think about it as you must be able to first ask yourself, what my personality type, what does it favor? What does my personality type favor? Which means if you've taken a personality test, you probably know what your weaknesses are. Then you now ask yourself, what's these weaknesses? Are they are they things I can ignore in my profession? Or they are things that if my personality test says they are my weaknesses, these are not things I can ignore in my profession as a teacher. So it's more like you take a personality test, and your personality test is saying you don't like to talk, or you don't. Then what are you doing as a teacher? By default, as a teacher, you must love to talk. So if you don't love to talk, it means it is something you would need to learn if you want to remain as a teacher. So it simply means there are some things that by nature you may not have power over it, but as someone who is progressive, you can alter it. Let me put it that way. And to be a good teacher, I would say almost all the skills that are required in teaching can be learned. It can be learned. So if you think you already have whatever it is that you say, oh, when I hear people say, oh, that's who I am, that's how I am, as in you can't, I'm like, hello, there's almost nothing that can be improved upon, right? So it's your mindset that is limiting you from working on those things. The moment you know that you choose a career path in teaching and you have deficiencies in the primary things that a teacher requires, it's just like people skills. If you're a teacher, you must have people skills, because who will you be teaching? Animals? You're going to be teaching human beings. So you must have that people skills, as in your ability to be able to see beyond you just delivering your stuffs in class and just zooming out, and you're not even paying attention to the people you are teaching. So things like people skills, your oratory, you're always speaking. I always say, look, I speak very fast, but when I knew that I had to start teaching people and I wanted them to hear me, I personally took lessons on tone modulation, right? Not because, as in when I'm speaking, oh, my English is good and I'm flowing. But the point is, was the person, the intonations, was it appropriate for my audience? No, because I generally speak very fast because I think fast, so I want to speak as fast. But in me trying to do self-analysis, I would speak into a phone and listen back to myself and ask me, if I did not know what I was thinking, can this person follow my process thought? So it meant that I needed to improve on the way I pause when I speak, my intonations and everything, to emphasize and de-emphasize things. So when people see this, is, oh, you're such a this, I said, do you realize I have worked on it? I've worked on an aspect of how I speak. And that is what every teacher should first, I think we should first identify and ask ourselves, what I currently do now, are there teachers that are doing better than I am? Because if their teachers are doing better, their chances that they will be better teachers. They will progress faster. They would, let's even assume they don't even have the money, like they don't have money and all that stuff, but they will be recognized for their skill. There are very few people I admire in the, like, let me say, the knowledgepreneur industry. And when I look at them, it is simply not because of the knowledge they are selling, but their ability to pass on that knowledge, to teach it, is what I admire most about them. And I'm sure if I maybe ask some of them, they've worked on their teaching skills, right? So it is important that we first identify, oh, I can talk, my phonetics is good, my this thing is good. Ask yourself, is my tonation good? Is the way I pause, is it good? Is my length of teaching, is it good? Are you that person that you'll be teaching a class for 2 hours, you're not even looking at the same, whether they're beginning to grumble? What are the small things? What is, as in, look at all the whole aspects together. Just you say, I'm a good teacher. You are not the one to judge yourself. Ask yourself, what can I improve upon? And those are the kind of things that I would say, the moment you're able to eliminate them or reduce them to the barest minimum, you are removing your limitations. I have seen someone that stammers teach, but when she is teaching, she has mastered the arts. You know, when you know it is a limitation for you, but you are willing to work on it. When she's actually giving a presentation, you will hardly know she stammers. So, like, and that is something that, let me say, you will say is natural, stammering. But no, this person is a teacher and has been able to work on, if I'm delivering a presentation, because why? She will probably have sticker notes, pause here, do this here, to avoid that stammering. And that is where every teacher should be able to get to. Identifying your limitations and doing every single thing you can to improve and make them like almost no limitation, and they become your strengths.
All right, thank you so much. That's a brilliant way to introduce that concept, and I love the way you were able to also break it down, because sometimes we share knowledge about certain concepts, and a lot of people still feel concerned on the how. So you did not just talk about it; you were able to break it down. I think that if it's safe enough for us to postulate to say that if you affect the individual, a personality test will really come in handy. It will really come in handy, because most people don't realize that they themselves can actually stop themselves. I don't know whether you get what I'm trying to say. You can actually stop you, you know. So, and how would you know that you are the one standing in the way, of your own growth or progress, as the case may be, if you don't even have an analysis of some sort, you don't have a measurement of some sort, and for teachers listening out there, because we're talking about the no limit teacher, and you've said that. So let me ask you, if you were to say in terms of sequence, it might not be a perfect sequence. So beyond the personality test, what do you think is another major internal thing that is a factor, you know, to becoming a no limit teacher?
I think the second thing I would say is
Dr.
okay.
Jason, that question is you. Yeah.
Okay, if I was to think about it in a sequence, as an after first becoming self-aware that there is no skill you can improve upon, and that no matter how good you are currently, there are new trends that emerging. Now, after taking a personality test and you have identified your own weaknesses and your own strengths, and you've taken, even on YouTube. I remember when I was going to learn intonations, voice modulation, I went to videos on YouTube, right? The knowledge is actually out there more than people think. But the fact is, I first needed to identify what I was trying to amend. I wouldn't just go on YouTube and say, What is my weakness? You know, like I needed to first identify what I needed to amend and take feedback from people. So I would say first, become self-aware. Second, when you become self-aware, take a personality test. Third, please ask people in that sequence. Ask, I remember when I started teaching at the university in 2019. And I think I was typing to my sisters or something, okay, I was trying to tell them, oh, fine, I'm going to be teaching this thing. And I was typing on our WhatsApp message. And one of my sisters, like that one, she throws jabs at me a lot. And she was like, Darren, you realize you're not a teacher, right? All this nonsense that you're always doing in our group, that you don't really mind how you type because you're typing to us. Hope you realize you have to be more conscious of how you type because you're a teacher. And even if you know the right thing, as in you are supposed to know the right thing, right? But you are not paying attention to it because you feel like you're amongst us. This is the time for you to start taking notes of because any content you put out there, like it's somebody is looking at your life to model theirs. So I became very, very like I'm that person before that. I would probably be typing and what's it called? That suggestion on WhatsApp. What's all those things? All those suggestion of words, and it's typing maybe instead of me typing I am, it's typing am, and I might not like proofread my work as in just because I just feel it's just play. Maybe it's just content on my wall. Because that is my limitation. I'm that person that I'm not very detailed. As naturally, I'm not carefree. I'm that person that can pick up my clothes in the morning wear without ironing, right? But it had to call my attention to it that even if you like to live, just live your life as in without having to be too, said, but unfortunately you're a teacher and your life will be modeled by people. So when people see you do it, they will think it is all right to do it. So it's meant that the feedback, have correct people. I always say have people that can actually give you, that are not trying to, to sugarcoat things for you. That would be the thought. After knowing you yourself, ask people for feedback and take it honestly. Don't take it like that, which is why for me, it's like when my sisters are giving me feedback, even if they are throwing jabs at me, what do they stand to gain? Nothing, as in they are probably just telling me so I can improve on myself. So I set up structures. The moment you know your weakness, set up structures. So they've told me that, when you type, as in you just send it without actually looking at it. So here's what I did. I had a WhatsApp message to myself. Everything I want to type to someone else, right? I will type it to myself first on WhatsApp. I'll send it to myself. And I go and read it after I send it to myself. I can guarantee you that process has saved me a lot of headache. Because by the time I read it back, I see all my mistakes, like right there and then. In fact, most of the time, I do it 2-3 times for a content I want to post online. And of course, I have Grammarly. I have tools. Apart from setting up structure, the structure I set up is for what? Is to be able to identify. I've set up structure in such a way that until you've read your content or whatever it is you're typing out 2 times before you should send it out. Type your content 2 times. Or your email 2 times, as in send it to yourself 2 times before you send it out, right? That is structure. You putting things in place that you say, I must do it no matter how I think that email, how great that email looks to me when I'm typing it the first time. But because you know your shortcoming as a human being, that is your shortcoming. You're typing so fast, you're not actually looking at your mistakes. So my brain is already programmed that I must do it, whether the email is great or not, I must redo it. Now, once I do that process, and of course I have Grammarly installed on all my devices. My phone has Grammarly, my devices have Grammarly. So they also help me correct my phrases. So when you see me typing, like, how can you be so good? You are a good orator, you type very well. I said, look, I'm a better orator than I am at writing. But guess what? That was my limitation in me just wanting to get content out of my head. But I knew that in my capacity as a teacher, I can't be doing that nonsense. So that will be for the 4th thing. First, become self-aware. 2, take a personality test to identify your weakness. 3, find people in your good people in your inner circle that can give you feedback about this your new profession or this profession that you are on. What are the things that people cannot catch you doing? Then set up structures. The 4th thing, set up structure. If it is writing or maybe you are talking too fast, go and take lessons. Find YouTube videos. You talk too fast. I've forgotten the guy's name. I took a lot of his, I listened to a lot of his lessons on how to do voice modulation when you are talking. Take lessons on that weakness. Then I'll say the 5th thing in order of sequence for me is after you've done the structure, taking lessons, do on all those my 1 to 4, I would say find a way to research. I remember when I started like teaching in 2019 at the university, right? I went on a research on two things. You can't be a teacher that doesn't like to learn. Like, what are you doing? You can't be a teacher that doesn't like to learn. In fact, learning should be the first thing before you go to teach. You don't teach what you don't know, right? You don't teach what you don't know. So I went on research on two things: how I am going to teach, the best practices. And I think that was the first time in 2019 I first heard of immersion form of learning. And good enough for me, I was now in a business lab that was now taught by world class, like a World Bank master trainer. So she's a master trainer. She trains trainers. Mrs. Margaret Jackson. She's Ghanaian. So the World Bank like typically like take her from country to country to like let's say train trainers. I know she has trained all these people at EDC, this NECA and all those things before, right? So she came to teach us. So in that place, because I knew she was a master trainer, here is what I was doing. She was teaching us business in that mini MBA, right? But because I know I'm a teacher, I was already self-aware. I said, if I had to go and pay for this woman's, she does all this training in this, it's in, I think, $2,000 or thereabout, for her to train you to become a certified IFC, something, LI, something teacher, trainer. I will have to go and pay her thousands of dollars. But I knew one thing. She was present in the class. She was teaching me in a certain way. So one of the things I think I asked is, what is your model of teacher? She said immersion. So I started to understudy her. So I was doing beyond listening to what she was teaching me. I was watching how she was teaching, how she was delivering. So it meant that as I was going, and good enough, it was at about the same time that I was going to start teaching. So I was learning her ways and I was repeating it in my class. That is one thing I always tell people, like, I don't learn and keep. I learn and execute, right? Don't learn and keep, learn and execute. You might not be perfect. Oh, this is the way to teach. You have seen someone model it, go and do it. When you do it, and you know the funny thing I also do in my classroom, as in my colleagues, my subordinates, be like, Jerry, you improve every time you do something. I said, do you know what? I take my own feedback out. I would put a phone in my classroom, record my teaching. I get back home, I go watch myself. Is there something I could have done better? Right? So even when you are praising me that I did something, I will record myself. And so those are the kind of things you should do in sequence. You've learned, you've done everything. When you execute, you record and watch back on your own.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure you can see the comments coming in. That's been very useful, the way you've been able to articulate the steps. You've been able to capture them in such a manner that if somebody's thinking of taking the steps, you easily have made it more like fragmented. While you were speaking, KK joined us. I'd like to welcome KK to the show. Good morning, KK. Oh, network. Wow. All right. So still on the matter, no limit teacher, no limit teacher. Now, there's one area that I would like us to talk about because I know it's sensitive that most people have. However, okay, I think KK is back now. KK, welcome back.
Hey, good morning. Oh gosh, Jerry, that was amazing, Jerry Sola. I have to rewatch this. Because I didn't come in at the beginning, so I need to rewatch this. Thank you for being so articulate and being so open to share. Thank you.
Yes, and stay in the spirit of openness. So KK, please open happiness for us on the matter. Hello, KK, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm wondering what to add to what Jerry Sola has to teach. She's blown it out of the water. It's been so good. I was just listening as I came in. She did. She knocked it out of the park totally. So I mean, being a no limits teacher, you need to understand your own limitations, to be honest. And I guess that's something that I find people don't like to agree that they have limits. So something I like to do when I'm in any interview session is to ask the prospective employee that, what are your weaknesses? Where do you need support? And for a lot of them, they say, I don't have any weaknesses. And I'm like, it's impossible. Everybody has a weakness, even if it is liking too much candy, liking sleep too much, turning off your alarm. I said, everybody has a weakness. The only problem is that we see our weaknesses as um, limitations, and our weaknesses are not limitations. Our weaknesses are things that we just need to overcome. And once we overcome them, then they potentially can propel us even to much higher levels, right? So and that's what I see when I see the no limit teacher. I think about limitless, and limitless is not just in one area. Limitless is in every area, right? So as Jamie Sola was speaking, and she was just talking about. I mean, to be honest, it was fantastic, right? I kept seeing how teacher professionalism would increase. I mean, I can't even find the words. If we just, one person, to be honest, just took all of these steps that she had shared and said, I'm going to just walk myself through these steps one element at a time, And then I started to think about the fact that there are times where us as teachers assume that simply because we're in the classroom, that's all there is to us. And that in itself is a limitation, right? So I would say to any teacher who's listening, and to myself, really, we really do not have limits as to what we can earn and where we can earn that money from. I mean, when Jerry Sola was speaking and talking about the teacher that was with her, the trainer who she learned from, she didn't say to the lady, teach me, right? But just asking the right questions kind of positioned her to be in that space where she can glean from that lady. Not because the lady did not say, oh, I'm going to teach you, except maybe they had that agreement later. But she said, you know what, I'm just going to observe this woman, see what exactly it is that she's doing, and begin to do that and see how I can then appropriate it, adopt it to the things that I do. And that's something that I did myself, right? I did that with Richard Branson. Richard Branson is one of my mentors. I'd never met him except virtually. But the way he runs his systems, the way he works with his staff, the way he's really open about his business, that's something that I've taken on board. And I've said to myself, in terms of how I work with my team, I'm not going to limit myself to what I know or what I see in this climb. I'm going to say to myself, what is acceptable standard? And what creates an environment that is non-toxic? And that's what I've been able to institute in my organization, right? And for me, that's really important. We need to be able to go outside of ourselves and say, what else is out there? What else is out there for me? What else can I take and make it for me, right? Because there are times where nobody's just going to come and hand it over to you. You're going to have to take it. So that's what I see when I hear the no limits teacher. That's this person who knows, look, you know what? I'm not limited to the classroom. What else can I do with the things that I'm learning? How can I observe what is happening even in admin? Sometimes I'm talking to teachers and they have no clue how the school is being run. And you see this when they eventually leave the school system and want to start their own schools or their own businesses. They find it so difficult to put together the systems and the processes to run a school because they never truly know or try to find out what's happening in the school system, right? And that's how, so I'm going to use myself as an example a lot because I can relate with myself. That's something I also learned even working in a school. I came into a school as admin, right? But I didn't really have any classroom experience. So I had to take it upon myself by immersion as well to go and find out what happens in the classrooms. I didn't even think I was going to ever start a school, to be honest, but I did. And so all of the things that I learned in the classroom helped me to run a better school, right? Because I knew what was happening. I knew what I didn't want to happen as well. And that's the same way. When you're in a school system, find out what is happening in that entire system. Don't limit yourself to just your classroom. Because why I wanted to know what was happening in the classroom was because it made me a better school administrator. It put me in a better position to be able to talk with parents when they came in and they had questions about their children or about the way the school was running. I knew and I could respond because I wanted to find out. So, dear teacher, don't limit yourself to just your classroom. Also, don't limit yourself to just your subjects. Go and find out what the standards are for the other subjects that are even in your school. No, I'm going to look at the other teachers and say, oh, you know what, how are they teaching this thing that I may not know so well? and just find out. If you're in year one, for example, find out what happens in preschool. Find out what happens in upper primary. Find out what happens, like I said before, in admin, so that you have a holistic education about where it is that you work. And so eventually, when you begin to think about maybe starting a second portfolio, which is a second business, I don't like to call it side hustle, because it's really not a side hustle. It's your second portfolio, and you can have many of them. When you then begin to start a second portfolio, a third, a fourth portfolio, because you know what is happening in the school system, and especially if you want to stay within the education system, you can find a way to plug yourself to close a gap that exists. And that way, you have just, it's almost like the first mover advantage, right? When you're the first person to start a thing, everybody would refer to the way you started it, right? And so you already almost like have a first mover advantage because you know what is happening within the system outside of your classroom, right? So I would say again, try not to limit yourself. But first of all, you need to find out where you need help, where you need support. Because if you have a blind spot, then you have a blind spot. The only time that blind spot goes away is when you shut it down, you close it, you buy that side mirror that you put in your review mirror, your side mirrors, and then you stick it on that round thing, and then you can see a much wider covering because you have that mirror put in there. So that's what it is. You must first of all close your blind spot. Two, you really need to be open to collaboration, right? Because you really cannot do it by yourself, and that's what makes you no limits. To be honest, none of us are Superman, or even Spider-Man needs help. To be honest, at some point, Superman needed help, right? So you need to be able to say, who can I collaborate with? And in collaborating, I would say, don't look at. A lot of times when people think about collaboration, they don't come to it with the right mindset. You need to always ask yourself, what is it that I need and what is it that I bring? When you can answer those two questions really clearly, then you can draw up a collaboration plan, right? And then you can then go into the market, so to speak, and find the people that you can collaborate with. And when they're coming on board with you, you already are having a conversation with them because you've outlined what it is that you have, what you bring to the table, and what it is that you need, right? So collaborate intentionally, have learning outcomes from that have goals from that collaboration so that you are achieving something. If you're not achieving anything with that collaboration, then I don't know what it is that you're doing. You're wasting time. And to be honest, that again is a limitation. So take out that limitation of time and of your coverage, your strength by collaborating with somebody. Another thing that I would say is being able to, it's almost like pitch yourself properly, right? Because there are times where you go into a place and because you haven't done your homework to find out what it is that those people need when you are pitching yourself, or even do your own homework to see how your strengths work well in that place where you're going to pitch, you then pitch wrongly. And what happens is that you're not prepared. Your messaging is not clear. Your what value you bring to the table is not clear, and your confidence begins to shake. So one way to take out the limits, to be honest, in your own opportunities and in the opportunities that are open to you, is to go very strongly into a pitch and blast your strengths out of the water, right? Everybody has weaknesses. If you focus on those weaknesses and let people see those weaknesses, then that becomes, it's almost like when you're in a boxing ring, right? Once a boxer throws in a punch, he keeps wanting to throw in a punch in the same exact spot because he knows that there's some pain that's going to radiate from that place, right? So that's what you don't want happening to you. Cover your flag. Let people not know where the problem is, right? Such that when you are speaking, you're speaking from a position of strength. That doesn't mean, remember, one of the first things I said is you need to know where you need help, right? So it's not like you're not working at those weaknesses, but you're working so strongly at your strengths. Why am I saying this? Sometimes we get so focused on our weaknesses that we forget the fact that our strengths are who make us who we are. You can already collaborate for your weaknesses, right? So focus on building that strength very strongly because you're collaborating on your weaknesses. Focus on projecting that strength very strongly when you go pitching because it's your strength that you're selling to that person, to that school, right? If you're looking for a job, to that venture, if you're looking to enter a new enterprise. So it's your strength that you're selling. So project that strength very strongly. That way, you have no limits, to be honest, because you are coming from a position of strength. Jerry Sola has already talked about professionalism, and I think she covered it beautifully. If you haven't watched that, please, if you weren't here when she spoke, you need to be like me and just go and watch from the beginning up to her point. And I think the last thing that I would like to add in not having no limits is taking stock. We need to be reflective people. Uh, because you did it well doesn't mean that there's no better way to do it. Always reflect. Sit back every single time you've done something, even whilst you're doing that thing, and say, what could I have done better? We grow from a place of reflection. We never grow because we did something. No, we've done it. We already know how to do it. That's why we do it. So there's no growth there. You grow when you sit back and say, how did I do this? Why did I do it like this? How did people respond to it? That's reflection. When you can reflect on things that you've done, you gain new insight into something that you've done or didn't do or could have done better. And that's how you grow because you look at it and say, oh, you know what? I can sort out, I can do something better here. And so you grow. So I would say that in looking at those four areas, it actually takes out the limits for you and for me as well because you really are, like I said, you see your blind spots, you know how to cover your blind spots, you pitch your strengths, and then you are reflective on the things that you have done. That way, you truly can grow and you can begin to take out every single limit that you have, every single limitation that you have, because you can see them very clearly. Yeah, back to you, Mr. Rose.
Thank you so much for that. It's just more or less, and thankfully, we just kind of have this alignment from the beginning till now. And it's very important that people begin to see that when it comes to, moving away from limitation or being limitless, you have to have what you call self-awareness. It's very important. And there was something I was about to say, and I'm going to take that first to Derry, then back to you. Is that sensitivity that we know that, look, people have their own item one, or people have their own what we call item must. And that item one or item must basically is when we talk about no limit, or when you talk about developing someone, you talk about getting better. People just feel like, you know what, what's the price? And it feels like this topic is not complete if you're not giving insights to no limit teacher in terms of finance. So I want you to, I want you to take a bit of time to really address this subject matter, because so you'll be talking about all this. It sounds nice, collaboration, it sounds nice, development, it sounds nice, structure, it sounds nice, follow someone and watch the way they speak, it sounds nice. But you've not mentioned that all-time word that puts the good pimples on their skin. Finance, money. What does this mean? How does it happen? Over to you.
So we can't take away the place of money in you being motivated. Let me put it that way. We can't take away the place of money. But I would say one thing. Teaching is a profession that money can be your motivator. I think I said this like a couple of days ago. Teaching is one profession that money can be your motivator. It can be your number one. It shouldn't be what brought you into that profession, because all of us know, at least in this climb, that like you don't say, oh, I want to become a billionaire, and you choose teaching, as in, that's as in you choose other things when you say you want to become a billionaire. But then we've come to that place in today's world that it's amazing how much you can earn being a teacher. Maybe not necessarily from the classroom or the conventional teaching, but in you actually creating knowledge that you can sell to people from your knowledge. It's amazing how much you can earn. You can build a conglomerate, you can build an institution from just being able to sell your knowledge as a teacher, right? So in you saying, oh, these finances, or especially teachers at the maybe primary school, say, how much are they paying me? That will first be khaki suits, will be looking like as if I'm an abroad teacher, that kind of thing. Like, because when you talk to most teachers, like, I beg, as in those abroad teachers can be like that because they are paying them in dollars, they are earning well. But me, as in how much are they paying me? I always say, like, Do you realize that it is when people see you, you project a certain thing. If you do small thing, as in you are doing something, and you say, oh, it is small, and you refuse to do it well, trust me, I most likely would not recommend you for something bigger because I think that is your capacity. I wouldn't think it is money that is your limitation. I would think that is your capacity. That is the best you can deliver. Do you understand? That is how I would see it, as that is the best you can deliver, because that is what I see. So you should remember that in you trying to say, oh, they are not giving me plenty money, but as in this, that. Remember that the way I even hire in my organization, I always say, what if you can volunteer for me and put this amount of time, or like let me say, bring this value to the table. So when I give you money, money is a plus, right? Because I already see the value you bring to the table, even as a volunteer. So when I'm paying you, it's like you will do more. So irrespective of the kind of money you are earning from your profession as a teacher, I know you may think, you may be saying, this is not realistic, it's being optimistic, this is not, it's because you are comfortable and everything. I just mentioned I didn't start teaching or earning money from university till 2019, right? And I've been on this academic journey. I did my master's in 2010, right? So it means I've been on this journey, not earning from this journey, like even at the postgraduate level. I'm not talking about undergraduate now. For like 9 years after, before I start earning from it. But every single time I show up, like people, people will even say, oh, that fashionable academic, like it's an hashtag, the fashionable academic and all those things. Why? Because I knew that I wanted to deliver excellence, whether you were paying me for it or not. So I think money is good because, of course, now when I'm maybe earning money from it and everything like that, it's at least I have something to fill my car or, do those kind of things. But it is like, it has never been the first thing I think about in what I get to deliver in terms of my delivery of teaching. It will never be the motivator. And I think every teacher should come from that place, because teaching is not that profession that is money. Same thing, medicine, being a doctor. Those two professions, money can be your motivator. When you now earn from it, fine. When you earn huge from it, fine. But money can't be your motivator for those two professions, really. It won't work. That's what I think.
Fabulous. Let me just jump in because I know Rotimi had said that he would pass the question to you first, Derry, and then he'll bring it back to me. I love the things that Derry Hollis said. I think they were fantastic. But what you do need to understand, to those teachers out there who are listening, is that you go into a profession to earn, right? So yes, you might not be motivated by money, but you do need to earn a salary. So the first thing that I would say when you want to think about limitations is say to yourself, and that's what I ask people when they come for interviews. I say, what's the absolute least you cannot earn by working for me? That you know that if I'm paying you this amount of money, you will not be happy. Let me know what it is, right? And that's what we ask because we want to know. If you're not happy with the salary that you're getting, you might not everybody will put in their best, right? And so I'm not getting the best of you. And what then happens is you're not excited about the job and some of the things you might need to do. People who are not professional enough will not do it, right? They would connect their performance to their pay, So it's a good thing to be able to say this is how much I want to earn. But then we understand, just like Darren Salah said, that sometimes the teaching profession, and to be honest, a lot of times you might not be earning exactly what you want to earn. So your question then is, how do you augment your income? Right? Because the truth is, even Bill Gates augmented his income. That's why he's not only doing Microsoft, he's doing some other things, right? Look at Virgin. He started with Virgin Media, which was the first. I'm not sure Atlantic was the first. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. But he has Atlantic, he has media, he has foods, he has a sports bar, he has so many other things that he's doing. So your question to yourself as a teacher is to say, what else can I be doing? Right? Where else can I be making impact and making money? Because money is important, right? So what you need to do is study some of the people who are making extra money from teaching. And that's what she meant by, so somebody has asked a question and said, what did Jerusalem mean by immersion? Immersion is when you are swimming, you cannot swim on the surface of the pool. You cannot swim by the side. You have to enter inside the water to swim, right? And so that's immersion. You immerse yourself in that thing that you're doing, right? If you're teaching children by immersion, for example, and you're teaching French, let me use French as an example. You get into the classroom, you teach French, you teach with French, you're speaking French. So that's immersion. If you're teaching by activity and you want the children to be immersed in that activity, in that skill set, every single time you're teaching, you bring is, I know that's all we're talking about, Rotimi, I'm sorry, I'm digressing. But every single time you come into the classroom, you have activities that will drive the skill level up. So that's immersion. So the children are immersed in the classroom. They're doing the activities over and over again. They're learning by doing, right? So that in itself is the concept of immersion. There is something I want to add a bit, something extra to it in case I didn't quite, my thoughts concerning immersion and our thoughts are different. But when you think about the money aspect, so ask yourself, what extra can I do? And you need to be ready to put in the work, right? You need to be ready to put in the work. Last week, I can't remember how many people I trained, and I was so tired. I can't even explain to you guys how tired I was. I was running pillar and post, trying to get, because the hotel where I was staying, the network was not great, so I was sometimes have to rush up to my sister's house, paying Uber to get into her house quickly to do a network, to be able to trade. And that's me. That, to be honest with you, if we're saying who needs money, I may not necessarily be that person who says, "Oh, I'll raise my hand." Of course, I'll raise my hand that I need it. Who doesn't? But I'm okay, to be honest. But I realize the fact that I cannot be complacent. Also, I have something to give. So why wouldn't I give it? Right? So you as a teacher, to be honest, to take the limitation of finance from it, you must be ready to do the work. You must be ready to train. You must be ready to maybe go and work with somebody after school so that you can be learning what it is that they're doing. You must be ready to try new things, right? And you must be ready to take charge of your personal finances. What are you spending money on? People keep saying things like abroad teachers. I mix a lot because I have colleagues outside of the country, and a lot of them are not happy with their pay either. To be honest with you, they're not happy with their pay. They want to earn more. So what do? They do extra. Some of them become instructional coaches. Some of them become and career coaches. They add that onto their teaching. Some the career coaching and some of that takes them totally out of the education sector. That's like core education, core classroom, but they're still in the education sector, right? So ask yourself, what else can I add? What else do I have? When you find those things, and to be honest, some of the tips that Derisola gave us at the beginning, you can embed those. You write well, you speak well, you dress well, and dressing is not a function of money. What happened to Benda Boutique? What happened to thrift stores? Why are we acting all great and like we are not living in this country? Even outside, outside the country, there's stores that are called classics. There's stores that are called bargain hunts. There's stores they're there. People shop from those places. Have you gone to cancer research? You would find a pair of clothing that is so expensive in another place, and you go into all these thrift stores and cancer research stores, and you get them for like £5, £2. The same thing you would have seen in store for like £45. Of course, I will go to cancer research and go and buy it for £2, right? That's the same way thrift works. So don't be that person who feels, oh, you know what, I'm not earning enough. It is never enough, to be honest with you. So how are you taking charge of your personal finances? What are those things that you're using for personal finance? How are you spending your money? It's so important. How are you keeping track of it? No matter if you say you will spend 5 naira, you will spend 5 naira. If you have 5 naira and you say, you know what, let me save 1 naira and spend 4 naira, you will make yourself spend that 4 naira. And so we need to begin to have the right mindset. And maybe Rotimi, okay, he's not here right now. We should have maybe a dialogue on finances, to be honest, on this show. So ask yourself, where can I save? Where can I spend less? Must you eat chin chin every day? No. Don't eat chin chin every day. Must you buy a bottle of water? No. Bring water from your house. Simple. Must you cook and go and buy from Batira outside? No. Go and cook and bring to school. Buy, invest in a cooler. Save, find ways that you can save money. All right. And then what you now begin to do is ask yourself, when we're going, and I can't, we're almost out of time, we're partly out of time, in looking at other ventures that you can do as a teacher. So as a teacher, right, you honestly can write books. You can do small workbooks that you either sell them as ebooks or you sell them as workbooks that schools can use. Find a way to pitch that service to schools. Let them know what it is that they need. And you don't have to go to a big school with 500 children. Go to a school with 15, 20, 30 children. Tell them this workbook is going to cost you this amount. But what you have done is that you've gone to Moshi to go and find out how much it is, because you can go and do those things yourself cheaply. It's not fantastic, but guess what? You're not at that level where you're selling to the $500 schools. Go and pitch those workbooks to these schools, right? And from there, you can begin to increase. You are not doing shoddy work, you are doing great work. It's just that the quality of paper might not be fantastic. The quality of, honestly, if you go and do it in Mushi, you will get it for a much cheaper rate. Okay, so find out all of these ways, even in your lesson. So you're a lesson teacher, okay, great. Can you be the plug for other lesson teachers? Where you are the one getting the deals because maybe you have positioned yourself, put together a conglomerate of lesson teachers and begin to send out lesson teachers out there. Have a plan, have a proposal sheet, nicely written. Send it out to parents, send it out to offices. You'll be shocked at how much money you'll be making from these things. But a lot of times we sit down and do nothing. I've been training and I've not been training in the classroom because I'm not even in town. I've been training virtually. And I haven't made a little amount of money from that. But guess what? The plan was not even to make money. I pitched a 2,500 naira lesson plan training. From seeing that lesson plan training, because I'm like, you know what, people need this. From seeing that, so many other schools started calling me and said, oh, okay, you know what, talk to all my teachers. And that's how I got like how many schools from a 2,500 naira training. Don't look at the big, start small. But you'll be shocked that in spending 2,500 naira, you have 50 people that have paid. But you pitch it at 10,000 naira, 2 people pay. Right? So we need to be able to manage these things and just look at the realities of these things. And that's how, honestly, you can begin to make money. Teachers make money. Don't be deceived. Teachers make a lot of money. But sometimes they don't make it inside the classroom. So you get to that point where you begin to make it inside the classroom, look around you and say, what are the needs? Find those needs, plug yourself into those needs, and you can make money. You can make extra money. Back to you, Mr. Rotimi.
I'm going to take up KK. Said I did some training and she made a little money. Anyway, we all know that little can be much, so I'm not going to say more than that. Olushola, I don't know. Olushola.
Yeah, Rotimi, you make me to be laughing. Good morning, KK. Good morning, Adenisola. Lovely. Maybe did you hear KK saying we need to do something on financial literacy on this program? I'm not sure you heard that. So, so please, yes, please write it down. I know our time is gone. But, the submission from KK and Adenisola has been so mind blowing. The few things I just want to put here, I think first of all is a mindset issue. Number two, the issue of fear is there. People doesn't want to go out, and thank God both sides of the spectrum have been analyzed. Don't put looking for money first. At the same time, you need money. But I think expertise is a tool of negotiation. Your expertise, what you can do. At the beginning, nobody may pay you, but when people begin to see the kind of what you deliver, then people are even afraid to offer you certain money because it will sound ridiculous. You know, you look at yourself, you are the same person that if somebody offers you that money 3-5 years ago, you'll be dancing in your room. But some people are even afraid to offer you that money now because they just go and commission suicide by hiring such a big person like this and they want to pay him 100,000. So that means you have shown up your skill. It is obvious, it is visible. People now feel with this level of expertise, there is a benchmark you must not pay below. So I think teachers should come. I think we should change the narratives. A lot of people came into the space, not because they wanted, so they go through it grudgingly, not happy, unsatisfied. And do you know that the younger generation are being poisoned? Even teachers doesn't want their children to become teachers. So that is out there. But I think the narrative is changing. In 21st century, in this time and age, there is so much more the teacher can do. And when we talk about teacher, you don't necessarily have to be in the classroom and be teaching and all that. And you can leverage also on the power of referral. Thank God you are bringing this on No Limit Education 2022. At least what I'm talking about, those of us in this studio will understand better. And as more will be coming out, jump into the train. Don't be a loafer. Don't just sit down and say nothing is working. Things are working. People are making money. Even if God will help you, you will still have to commit things into your hands. So you go do this and succeed. You can't just sit down or lying down on your bed. Some people are working till 1, 2 a.m. You have eaten your bed from 7 p.m. You don't wake up on the 6 p.m. I'm not trying to say this how long you should sleep. But if there are things you need to do for yourself, rise up and get it done. God is not going to add to 24 hours for anybody. I'm not sure in this present world. So ask yourself, okay, I need to do this.
He's not.
Yeah, ask yourself, rise up. Because if you do nothing, nobody, even your destiny helpers, will not see the need to help you. Yes, don't drop the ball. Arise to the situation. And finally, I have written that, I think it's on my Facebook and LinkedIn. It's part of the thing I wrote in my new book. If your consumption outweighs your production, you perpetuate your own poverty. Don't spend on irrelevancies. Spend money to buy. If all the money you used to buy one bag clothes, almost every other Saturday, you are using it to buy courses. You will have one professional clothes that will be glowing all over the world. The Ankara you bought 2-3 years ago is in the dustbin now. How much did that Ankara add to your life? And somebody is asking to come and buy a course of 2,500. 2,500. I don't have, but you can buy one bag clothes 3,000, 5,000. These are some of the things that have perpetuated poverty in Africa. People don't even know what is good for them. Go and get Rotimi's message, The Billionaire Teacher. I think that CD is still available. Go, I recommend everybody, go and get that CD, The Billionaire Teacher, and have a complete overhaul of your mindset. And if your pocket is poor, you don't have a problem. But when your mind is poor, you are in a dungeon. Thank you very much.
Let me brush my teeth. We're not go bath now.
All right. Oh my goodness. So we'll definitely I think that for the financial literacy, it has to be a series, because we have to unravel layers upon layers upon layers. And yes, we will do that on the show. Probably we'll even start tomorrow. So we'll probably start a financial literacy series tomorrow. Hopefully, KK will be available and everyone will be available to, let's just break it, and deal with this matter once and for all. So on that note, I'd like to thank everyone for the contributions, for their comments. I would like to thank KK Okenfajai. Thank you, Olusola Olumide. Thank you, Aderisola Adepoju.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for the amazing contribution. So we're ending now. We'll be here tomorrow, same time, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. West African time on the Good Morning Education Show. We're streaming from Lagos to Nigeria to West Africa to Africa and the entire world. So on that note, we'll count 2 and then we'll say our goodbyes. 1, 2, go. It's
always a great
morning on the Good Morning Education Show.
Bye.
Bye everyone.